Okay, we will move on to A1. Hey, Nikki, is it okay if I start? Thank you. Okay, I wasn't sure we had our recording going. We're sorry about the technical difficulties today and that we were unable to live stream, but this will be posted this evening. We're going to move on. We've already called to order, and we're going to move to A1, acknowledgement of land. We'll go to Trustee Stangowitz for that.
Okay, welcome to our division office located on the traditional land and territory of the Nitsipi, Piikani, Kainai, and Siksika, the Blackfoot people, within the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
Thank you so much, Trustee Stangowitz. We'll now stand for O Canada. Thank you so much. We'll move on to B, the consent agenda. The recommendation is that the October 24th, 2022 consent agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented or amended. Can I get someone to make that motion? Yeah, Trustee Yagos. I would also, sorry, just before we move on, I wanted to send Trustee Long's regards that he was unable to make it today. And Trustee Gimber is joining us virtually. Go ahead, Trustee Yagos. Turn your mic on.
Thank you. I'd like to pull out Mr. Fuller's report. Yep.
Okay, perfect. We will add that as item G6. And that's Mr. Feller's report. Okay. Trustee Stangowitz.
And also the superintendent's report.
G7 be the superintendent's report. Thank you. Any other changes? No? Okay. So the recommendation that the October 24th, 2022 consent agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented. All in favor? Okay, that is carried. Trustee Gimber, I can't see you, so maybe we will go with opposed today. We'll ask for if there's any opposed, and then, okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll move on to item C, the recommendation. This is emergent changes to the agenda, that the October 24th, 2022 regular board meeting agenda be approved by the Board of Trustees as presented or amended. Okay. Can I get someone to make that motion? Trustee Hodges? Any discussion around that? Trustee Toon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an emergent item to present forward. I emailed it to Nikki earlier. And it's the recommendation that the Board of Trustees support school councils / parent advisories by ensuring trustees are involved by requiring all school councils invite trustees to report and participate in all meetings.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Is there any question or discussion around this being added as an emergent item? Trustee Yagos?
Could I ask why this is an emergent item?
Go ahead, Trustee Toon.
Thank you. There was just some clarity that was sought from some school councils about trustee attendance. As we're starting off the year, and we want to make sure that we're having those representatives there. So this came up after the agenda was already circulated, so that's why it's coming as emergent.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on adding this emergent item? Okay. Are there any opposed to adding this as an emergent item? Okay, seeing none, we will add that as F6. Perfect. Thank you, Trustee Toon. Okay, we'll move on to declaration of conflict of interest. The recommendation that the Board of Trustees declare if they have any conflict of interest relating to agenda items from the October 24th, 2022 board meeting, and if so, they should declare them now. Okay. I'm seeing none. Okay. I would now move, I would move that we consider moving out of order or suspend the rules and consider moving to our transportation, G3, and then followed by G4, as we have taken a little more time getting to these items. And so I would move that as our presenters are here now, that we consider these things out of order. Is there any discussion around that? No? Are there any opposed? No? Seeing none? Okay. Then we will go ahead and move to G3. So we are excited to have Rick Visor here, our transportation coordinator, and Michelle Headley, administrative assistant, transportation and LRSD pursuits, will provide an update to the Board of Trustees regarding transportation throughout the division. We're so happy to have you both here. We invite you to please come up and just so that your voices are heard on the recording, we ask that you please use the microphones. So thank you both for being here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're just going to load our presentation here for you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Rick Visser, Transportation Coordinator, and this is Michelle Headley, our Admin Assistant.
Hello.
Okay, I guess hopefully you guys can all see our presentation there. We'll move on to interesting facts. Third page. Just some interesting facts for everyone. We have currently 82 buses. We have 70 drivers, of which 48 of them are route drivers. On any given day, we transport 1,474 students from home to school. That does not include our transfer students from Grantham to Claresholm or Staveley to Claresholm or Natton. On any day, we travel 7,111 kilometers in one day and 142,222 kilometers in a month and 1,422,200 kilometers in a year. One of our biggest things that we've been working on this year is our student ride times. So we've done a comparison of ride times from last year to this year, and you can see everything that is in green is an improvement from last year. Everything that is in red is a slight adjustment from last year or a little bit worse than it was last year. Overall, we have made quite a few improvements to our ride times, which I know is a pretty major factor when it comes to complaints and stuff like that. Everybody wants their students to school as quick as they can, and they hate riding the bus. We have had some decreases in times, and we have had some increases mostly in average times. So we'll go on to the next one. So what we've been working on this year, in order to shorten ride times and look for efficiencies, we have added another route in the Fort Macleod area. We have also redone all the routes in the Livingstone area. Those were all redone, and it was a big improvement over their times from last year. We are working on right-sizing the buses, which means that we are going to put the proper size buses for the amount of students. We have a number of buses that are too large for the students that they're carrying. So we are working on putting them to the right size of bus to try and save fuel and everything else, because everybody knows that fuel is really cheap these days. We have 4 new buses on order. These buses were ordered in November 2021, and normally we would have had these buses by July, but with the COVID stuff and everything, we are hoping that they will be on site by January 2023. The other project we are currently working on is ordering and installing GPS systems in all the buses. Now, the GPS system will benefit us in a number of ways. It'll help us find efficiencies in our routing system. It will help us determine whether buses are stopping at the stops that they need to stop at and what times they're stopping there, so that we can get everything more efficient and smoother running for the schools and everybody going forward. Last year we had the opportunity, we had some problems with a run out in the Waterton area where we had a number of flybys. And in a precautionary way, we installed what they call a predictive stop arm system on this particular bus. And by doing so, the system warns the students not to cross if they feel that the vehicle approaching them is not going to stop in time. We're proud to announce that we had 4 instances this year where that system came into play, and it has kept our child safe all the way through it. 4 in the first week of school. So that being said, along with the cameras on the bus, we were able to charge 3 out of the 4 people that went through the lights. So I think that was a major plus for us to be able to help and keep the students safe. The next thing we are currently working on is co-curricular and extracurricular trip pilot project. We have recently kicked off this project, and we have it running in 2 communities, in Fort Macleod and Claresholm. With this project, we are looking at the schools to book the buses for the sports trips and everything else. So far, we've had pretty good feedback from it. Some people weren't happy with it. Some people are ecstatic with it because it's working so good. So that being said, we are in the process of looking at other students joining on to do this project, and it looks like it might work out in the end, but we'll see how the pilot project finishes up. We held a special S endorsement training for 7 drivers who were mostly school drivers. The S endorsement is required to be able to drive a school bus. So for the smaller 24 passenger and less, you need a class 4 license, but you also need an S endorsement to drive it. This is beneficial for the project, the pilot project, as we needed to get some teachers and stuff online with S endorsements so that they could drive the buses. Yes.
Is that just in our division that you need the S endorsement? Is that something that we've decided, or provincially you still need the S endorsement?
Yeah, provincially you need the S endorsement.
Okay, thank you.
That came through with the, after the Humboldt, when they changed all the training and everything. Yep, so. The training has allowed them to drive the assigned buses for their extra trips, and we are now seeing a savings at both the schools and on our side. So that should be beneficial in the end. We purchased 2 24 passenger activity buses for this purpose. So they seem to be working out quite well. Everybody seems to be happy with it. So next is our route finder software, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle because she's specializing in it now.
Right, yeah, so I came on board with the transportation about the middle of July. So Route Finder is this very specific transportation software that we're working with, and we're happy to report that we have been able to sync our data that comes from our Edsembly student information system that we have, and that's at all the school levels. So as the assistants are adding new children to our enrollment, that kind of thing, changing addresses, that information now syncs and talks to our Route Finder transportation data. So we have been able to do that, and so every morning we'll get notices that will say, oh, this person's address has changed, we'll have to assign them to a new bus. So the information's flowing very, very nicely, so that's something that we're excited about. Along with that comes some cleanup of old data. So we're just currently, going through that and managing the cleanup of, we don't want any old information, we want the most current. And so we're just working with that. Over to Rick.
Back to me. So our current concerns are driver shortages. Although there is a driver shortage across, and I found out, I'm going to change this from the province because I found out at my conference last week, it is North America wide. It's not just a provincial problem, it's a North American wide problem. There is a driver shortage. Training is a big deal. It's something that is very time consuming and very expensive to do. That being said, I have confirmed that starting on November 7th, we will be training 3 brand new drivers of the 7 that I have on the list to hire. So we will be increasing our driver pool that way, and it's a blessing to see that. So that yeah, that covers that sheet. Sorry about that. So our future goals, we strive to have enough drivers trained to keep all of our routes filled with full-time drivers. We're looking for more efficiencies and ways of saving on fuel and maintenance costs for the fleet. Now that being said, the downsizing or the right sizing of the buses should save us some money there, and having moving some drivers around and redoing routes will save us more money. So we look forward to the benefits of that for next year as well. We continue to deliver all the students to the schools in the shortest and safest way possible. Create a happy and healthy workplace for all of our drivers and fellow employees, and continue to stay on top of new advancements within the transportation industry and update our fleet accordingly. There was some discussion again at the conference about electric buses. I do not feel that electric buses will ever work in our kind of environment. That's my personal opinion. They've got a long ways to come. But there is some places that are going to try them, and we'll see how the trial periods go there. We're going to continue to investigate and help to improve the data flow to ensure that our system is working the most efficient way it can.
Lacey had a question.
I was just wondering, do you know on average how many students are typically on a bus route? I know it can vary greatly, but do our largest routes, like with those longest rides, and that might not be because there's the most students just 'cause they're the farthest away, but does our largest bus carry like 40 or 50 kids, or is it more like 20 to 30?
No, we have some buses. I can think of two particular ones that are large buses. They're carrying 48 plus students.
Okay.
So that's, if you have a 72 passenger bus.
Right.
Now the bus seating for the government is rated at 3 bums in the seats,
Okay.
where
But
we know
comfortably.
that when students get older, they don't fit that many.
Yeah.
So we consider a 72 passenger bus will hold 48 people comfortably.
Okay.
And we have a number of buses that are full
Okay.
to the max.
Okay.
But we do have a number that are way
Smaller.
too few kids
Yes.
on the bus.
Okay.
So,
Perfect. Thank you. That was just a kind of rough estimate. I was wondering. I had no
Yeah.
idea. Thanks.
okay, is there any questions? Yes.
Sorry, I just was wondering, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the arm that came down that alerted the kids if there was a vehicle that wasn't gonna stop. And that was on only one bus. Do you know if there's potential to go down the lane to put it on all buses, or is that something?
It is a very expensive thing to add to the bus. That particular unit, I do believe, cost us around $3,500.
Okay,
We thought we would try it out on that bus. If we start seeing a particular pattern in an area, we will definitely equip the bus with that technology.
awesome.
There is other technology out there. There was a lady brought up an example at the conference I was just at where they have an extendable arm that comes out beside the stop sign, and it sticks out into the lane by 6 feet. And it's on a breakaway pin so that when the vehicle hits it, they know they hit it. And with the winds that we have here in southern Alberta, I can't imagine that those are going to work. So,
Perfect. I just think it's such a huge safety issue for our students, and that just maybe that's just something that we can advocate to the government to help maybe fund some of that or to help keep our kids safe. So I just thought maybe that was just something that we can have a continued conversation about.
Thank you. Trustee Hodges? Go ahead, Trustee Stanglitz.
I was just wondering what you call capacity in terms of like what percentage of kids. So you said there was a couple of buses that had way too few kids. What kind of capacity is that? Like what percentage are you looking at? Like in terms of like a 24-seat bus, how many kids would be in that if it was
well,
too
we have
few?
one bus in particular that is considered a 66 passenger bus that's hauling 9 students. That's
Thank you.
probably our worst case scenario. We have another 54 passenger bus that's hauling 11. So this is the kind of things that I'm really looking into to try and improve. Our biggest problem that we're running into is finding buses the size that we need.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, trustee Yagos. Thank you, trustee Singwitz.
Why is there a problem in the Livingston area for the Livingston School with the ride time? I mean, I know you got this as, you got it in red, so what is the issue there? What are the issues there?
You want to bring it back? Just let me go back. Livingston, you said?
Yep.
Okay, so Livingston School, I don't particularly know the absolute reason why the average time has changed from 29 minutes to 30 minutes. So we felt that was a pretty minor change. But the longest ride times only dropped by 3 minutes after doing them runs. Now, the problem we have in the Livingston area for Livingston School is we've had some students that have added, that are up the Gap Road, going up into Racehorse Creek in that area up there. We've had some students added up there, so that's really extended our ride time up there on the top end of that. And then on the North Burmis Road, because it's such a vast area out there, trying to fill the bus that is there, there's so many different areas to go. We're going north up to the, what they call the D Ranch, all the way down to your ranch, and then trying to collect and go into the schools. And there's just no other way to collect them students that are in that are close to the school. The other buses are full and just can't get over there. So there is still some routing issues around the Lumbrick area, and I am still looking at it. The only other way I can see shortening times is to put another bus on the route, and we can't find a driver in the area. So,
Thank you. That,
you're welcome.
good explanation. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just checking with, perfect, trustee Gimber is good. So, as a board, we want to thank you guys for coming. Oh, just, not yet though. First, we'd like to hear from Mr. Perry.
Okay, this is on. Thank you. By the way these two talk, you would think they'd been in their positions for quite some time, and that would be false. They, Rick has been probably a year in this position now, Rick.
Yes. Yeah.
And like Michelle said, in July. So I just want to, congratulate them for the work that they're doing on behalf of the board. And I know you're going to go there, but as the supervisor of the transportation area, I just really appreciate everything that they do and what they've done in a short amount of time to bring what the many changes and improvements they've made in that time period. So thank you on behalf of me, and now I'll let the board say something.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Just kidding. It is great to hear. We know how closely Jeff works with you, but as a board, transportation, we're constantly doing what we can to be fiscally responsible and take care of every student every day. And as you said, no one likes their kids to be on the bus all day. They want them there as quick as they can get there and back as quick. And transportation is often on our minds and in our discussions, and it is giving the board, I believe, a lot of peace of mind to hear these things that are happening, the technology that you're using to figure out the routes and keep our students safe, that you have 4 new buses coming and you're focused on right-sizing those buses and making those changes. It's a huge benefit to our school division to have you two here looking at these things and looking for those efficiencies. And we appreciate the work that you're doing, and we appreciate you coming and sharing it with us. And we look forward to hearing from you again, when you present to us again. But we also want you to know that we're here for you and that we will advocate to the government in any way that we can. So as you continue to look for drivers, and if there are things that we can do to advocate as far as discussing S endorsements and things like that with the government, we are doing those things now. But if there's things in particular that we can help advocate for and on our division's behalf to help, especially as you're looking for those new drivers, please reach out to us. Don't hesitate to do that, and we want to help every student every day have the best experience they can before and after school on their rides there. And so on behalf of the board, thank you so much. Thank you guys very much. Have a good day. Don't forget to vote if you live here. For whoever you like. Okay. That was an excellent transportation update. Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to G4 now, the Leader in Me district coaches. District coaches will provide a Leader in Me update to the Board of Trustees. We have, I didn't see Mrs. Feller there. So we have Mrs. Feller and Mrs. Watson here. We'll invite them up now. Thank you, ladies, for being here today. We just ask that you use the mic because this is being recorded, and so they can, it's easier for them to hear if we use the mic, anyone who may watch this back. So thank you, ladies. Hit your blue button there.
We're new to
There you
this,
go.
so we'll
That's
figure it
okay.
out as we go.
We'll help you.
So I'm Leanne Feller, and this is my partner,
Leanne Watson.
and we are two of your district coaches for Livingstone Range for Leader in Me. The other two district coaches couldn't be with us today, so it's Nick Beer and Sean Latta. And I don't know, Nick, do you want to put our slides up there? Sorry. It's all good. We also apologize for not getting them to you in advance. We were in Waterton at the retreat last week, so we only got together this morning, really. So we apologize for not getting them to you sooner. We'll just wait for 1 minute. Perfect, thanks, Nikki. Okay. So between the four of us, we began training for Leader in Me district coaches 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we just started some newer training. But before we start, we also wanted to get a feel of how familiar everyone in the room is with Leader in Me overall. If you're feeling fairly confident, you want to just put your hand up so we don't bore you with the original details of Leader in Me. Okay, good. We'll get to some of the basics. We just won't go in depth. Okay. So the Livingstone Range Leader in Me journey began back in about 2011 at G.R. Davis School, which was located right here. And G.R. Davis was a priority school at the time with Alberta Education. We consistently were achieving under what provincial standards would be. And it was a school of about 330 kids with 33% First Nations students. So at the time, Daryl and Richard came in as the administrators of G.R. Davis, and we took a look at the school improvement, and we just needed to make some changes. It was in a really bad place. So at that time, we began looking at different school improvement processes and structures, and came to the conclusion that the Leader in Me fit best in our context. So we started the Leader in Me journey here and then. So with the Leader in Me, this is the framework that guides what the schools use for setting all their different directions and systems in place. So at the top are the paradigms that we want all stakeholders involved in the students' education to believe about themselves and their students. Then it moves down into what people will do in order to achieve different results and to make improvements. So most schools, when they start this process, they will break into those action teams in the middle in the do part there. So there'd be between 3 and 6 action teams, and every member on staff would take part in being on one of those teams in order to affect school improvement.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
So when we're going through each year, which I think is our next slide, but when we go through, it's clearly delineated which areas of leadership, culture, or academics that we're focusing on so that everything's cascaded for growth each year, and then you just feed on it every other year following. So it becomes embedded in the culture of the school, and also your growth plans. And I really love that now it's coming from the division as well. So it really helps us be very focused on achievement in all areas.
So the perfect segue to the next slide too. So this is how our core training has began. In core one, what happens is the school just begins the journey, and students begin to learn about setting mission statements. They start setting up a school environment that welcomes leadership, and they start getting into leadership roles, so that learning that everybody can be a leader. So we started the training there, and we now can facilitate core one training and 7 Habits training for other schools that want to go on this journey. And then as you move up the mountain to core two, sorry, just got to move that down on mine. Students start looking at the highly effective practices of the 7 Habits. So not just being able to regurgitate the 7 Habits, but being able to put them into practice and living them, and using the 40X model to set goals in order for them to be able to articulate to others what their growth, what areas of growth they need, and how they're going to go about showing that growth to others. So then now we've been trained so we can facilitate core two for other schools on the journey. And we just began the core three, which then helps schools implement things like leadership binders to track achievement, to practice the 8th habit for students to find their voice, and to just really embed those practices into the leadership culture and academics of all schools. And as you see at the top of the mountain there, the ultimate goal is to achieve Lighthouse milestone, which means that you have put the practices into place so deeply with fidelity that the structures and processes are there and should be able to continue on for years to come. And the last part of that is impact journeys. Once you've achieved those 3 things and your staff has been trained in those areas, you take on impact journeys where a coach would come in and start to give you deeper learning, maybe around emerging stronger was one of the ones, and building a sense of belonging is another one you can take. So school can pick from journeys that will help them on their way. And we're not there yet. We can't facilitate those things. It still has to come from a Franklin Covey person, but maybe eventually. So I'm going to turn it over to Leanne now.
I just wanted to say with the core 1, 2, and 3, like as you're working, it's really nice that Livingstone Range has spent time to make us coaches, because we already know the initiatives and the goals that are in place. When there's outside coaches that come in, we have to go through a lot more talking and time to make sure everyone understands what we're shooting for as a division. So it's really nice when we're working with the school. We already know what supports are in place, what we can maybe access. I just find it pretty efficient that way and effective overall. So right now on the slide, it just shows where our schools in the division, our Leader in Me schools are at. So I'm excited. I'm working with Willow Creek Composite. This is our first year of implementation, and I can't even wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. The coach for my school is Mitchell Dram, and he's staff is so excited to work with him. He has really great energy. So it's nice to have, as a principal, someone else come in and help the staff and the students. So it's going to be a great year, I think, overall. And we're really excited to take the learning from Alicia Parsons, our facilitator, our coach currently from Texas. She's wonderful and so skilled. It's kind of intimidating. We were just saying when she's at work, we're like, oh, we have a lot to learn yet. But she's the best one to teach us. What else? So what do we do as district coaches? So we have schools assigned to us, or they can request us. And then we just work at helping them meet their goals. We're available to provide PD as necessary. So we would facilitate Core 1 staff training and Lighthouse training, 7 Habits, just wherever they're at in their journey. And then throughout the year, we also engage in PD that's available to us through Leader in Me. This year, we're signed up for the symposium in Las Vegas, which is amazing. The last one I went to was in Edmonton, and I loved it. We were able to see different Leader in Me schools, and you come away with just so many ideas for implementation. Right away, it's almost overwhelming. I don't know, have you been? Yeah. Lots of ideas, yeah. Then one of my favorite things is the MRA results. So every year we administer the measurable results assessment. And I find this to be the most informative piece of information to move the school forward towards the school goals and divisional goals. I find I have more parents completed than the assurance survey easily, and the results are, they're so much easier to understand and to make movement with. I have them when we do our data walk in May with parent council. I really like the conversation that comes from it, and the school has improved, I believe, like so much since we've started doing that survey. And the last one that we did was even easier for the kids to complete. So I'm a big fan of the MRA. We were gonna, do you wanna watch video?
Let's just watch the last one. That was pretty
Okay.
long.
So just this, we had, next one. We just wanted to include this photo. We were so lucky to meet Muriel Summers. What's her official title? Leader in Me.
That's a good
It's
question.
really
now.
important. She's the first one who implemented Leader in Me ever. So we were so lucky to not only meet her, but we spent a lot of time with her, and she is amazing. So I hope at some point she can come to our divisional day so everyone can meet her. She's amazing. So we truly believe enduring success is in the systems, and in this, I believe it's not the framework, but the systems are the people. The people are what make a difference in schools, and Leader in Me starts, it's like grassroots right when the kids come in the door. I love it. I love that the kids feel like leaders. The smallest people are leaders in our schools, and that's pretty powerful. I love seeing that. So we do have time for questions, and then we have a short video that we shared last year at the ULEAP conference. We presented there as a group, and so we have a little video to share at the end, but we'll take questions.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks for coming and being here today. Do any trustees have any questions? Trustee Toon?
Sure, thank you. Just as you're transitioning from being the majority of the schools elementary, and I see JT Foster taking this on, what differences do you see implementing it in the younger schools as opposed to the high schools?
Oh, I'm so excited for high school implementation. At the programming available, I can't even wait, because the programming available helps students, like junior and senior high students, be life ready. So when they leave home, first of all, they're not terrified, because it is a big transition. That they are taught financial success, post-secondary readiness. All of that is and can be very overwhelming and very stressful for the kids. So I believe the programming is invaluable, and I hope to see it take some real traction as soon as possible in our schools. I really do believe it will help with transitions to post-secondary. My own personal feeling as an assistant principal at JT 5 years ago is that what I saw, and from my own kids, that sometimes kids, when they feel unprepared, want to take some time to think that they're going to get more prepared. And I think that we have the opportunity to provide that in the schools. And it also helps with just delineating their goals for achievement academically. Thank you.
But just to add to that, we had the opportunity in Texas to go visit a couple of high schools that were Leader in Me schools. And when it seems unattainable, we were lucky enough to watch it run like clockwork. They had the students teaching the actual lessons, not the adults teaching the lessons. They were leading it, and they had the leadership lessons, thanks. And they intentionally had it built into their schedule each day. So there was an actual block that was for these things every day. So it was working very successfully.
That's exciting to hear. I've heard some parents say that they miss it when their kids have moved on and they've had it in elementary school and they've really flourished under it. And then when they get to high school, that structure and those supports not there. So it's exciting to see that some of the high schools are bringing it on now.
Yes, thank you. I was excited when my kids went to high school because they were growing up and trying new things. And I told them, you're really going to need your agendas now. And they said, we don't have agendas anymore. I was like, what? So I think that, that is exciting to see some of the high schools are getting involved. For schools that aren't Leader in Me schools, are you assigned to those schools as well? And if they're not a Leader in Me school or interested in being a Leader in Me school right now, are there other ways that you can support those schools by just helping them understand different concepts or implementing different pieces? Or are you not involved in schools that haven't decided to take this on at this point?
Oh, yeah, we're available whenever anyone wants to ask questions or just work on just brainstorm towards a goal, absolutely. And they have access to all of the Leader in Me resources as well. But yes, in fact, just at admin retreat, we were working with different administrators throughout the 2 days just to talk through goals or strategies or even resources to find that might help them get there for sure, yes.
Just to add to that, all staff members have access to the Leader in Me, whether they're Leader in Me school or not, as well as the All Access Pass. The division has purchased for all administrators. So they do have that. And our one coach, Sean, has been kind of assigned to check in with the ones that are not Leader in Me schools as well, just to just to continue to keep the conversation going and that it's out there and an option.
Thank you, ladies. Mr. Kuzak?
I just want to add that it goes beyond the schools as well, too. They were helping senior administration, myself included, in some of our work with our WIGs. So, yes, they go beyond the schools.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kuzak. Go ahead, Trustee Hodges.
I know as a board, we really believe in student leadership. We have our Livingstone leaders, and so just seeing your presentation today and hearing how everything can be student-led is just really a key piece. I feel like students learn better from students, and so I love the direction and the onus goes back onto the student and helping them so that when they are done high school, they have the tools they need to go out into the world to be leaders too. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So we want to thank you for coming and sharing your experiences that you've had recently and that are coming up, but also your experiences in the schools. And it's nice to see how it's set up so that everyone has someone they can turn to when they need that support. And, building capacity within the division is so excellent to see. So we appreciate you guys and what you do, and we appreciate you coming to share with us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
We're going to just leave you with this is a minute and 30 seconds, I believe, just so you can see some of the students in action in Livingstone Range.
Going to a Leader in Me school means living the 7 habits. I don't let things get me down, and I choose setting feeling. Hi, my name is Liana, and I'm going to talk to you about my leadership roles. So we applied for leadership at October, and now we use the random picker to use a job. So far, I've been a snack master, and my new job is a tech crew. I like snack master best because I get to handle snacks and eat it too. Bye. As in Leader in Me school, every classroom has a mission statement, and then we sign it and commit to it, and we set wildly important goals that we all live by it. Leader in Me means being brave, and it's helped me reach my goals. Before I did Leader in Me, I only read about 30 minutes, and now I can read a whole hour each night. Being a leader means having integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing even when nobody is watching. Hi, my name is Jackson, and I'm going to read my mission statement to you. My mission statement: I am a good hockey player and a good baseball player, and I am a good helper. My mission is to read my best and write my best. Leader in Me means helping younger kids, and my goal is when I go outside to play at recess, I try to help kids as much as I can.
Thank you so much, ladies. We appreciate you coming in. Okay, perfect. So with that, we will jump back to Our E, in-camera session. Can I get someone to make a motion to move in camera? Trustee Hodges, so at 11:44, we'll move in camera. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you. We had a motion at 1:59 to come out of camera by Trustee Toon. Thank you, Trustee Toon. And we are now jumping back in the proper order of things at our action items. So action item F1, special board meeting recordings in response to the postponed item E14 from the September 26, 2022 board meeting. Trustee Toon will discuss recording special meetings. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustee approve to record all special meetings and post for transparency starting today, October 24th, 2022. That's being moved by Trustee Toon. And I will turn it over to Trustee Toon to speak to.
Thank you, Chair. Excuse me. So for the past year or two, we've been recording our meetings, and I think it's been really successful. We've got great feedback from the public. One of the challenges over the last year or two, though, is we've had an increase in special meetings. Part of that was pandemic related, and others has been scheduling. And so when we get a special meeting, it's not included under the previous motion to record those meetings, which I don't think was the intent. I think we want to make sure we're operating at all times in open and public and allow public to participate virtually, or it's hard with our meetings being during the day for public members to attend. So I think that this is kind of the next step, logical step in making sure that we're continue the great work that we've been doing as a board to do it. Currently, somebody could ask for a recording, but it's really awkward to put it on the onus on individual trustees to say whether a meeting's recorded or not. I think that this is just a better process-wise to have everything across the board be recorded, and then we know that's the expectation, and it helps facilitate the work of the board and makes it easier on administration knowing that that's what is going to transpire.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. There's some discussion around this item. Okay, my question is, okay, go ahead, Trustee Yegus. Okay, if I guess this is more for admin or Nikki, is it always possible to record a special meeting? I know sometimes live streaming doesn't work, but if we're having a special meeting, can it always be recorded fairly easily?
Yes, it can. It's not a problem at all, even in that room. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Seguin.
I'm just wondering if Nikki knows the answer to this one, but like when a special meeting is virtual, it's easy to be recorded. If it's not virtual and it was here, say on a Monday night or a Thursday night, is the system simple enough that one of us could record it? Because I'm not sure always that you are here for those special meetings. So I think that needs to be a consideration. Yeah. I know if it's a virtual, like right now we have a subscription to Zoom and you can hit record and that's quite simple. I think you can now record on the Google Meet as well. But if we are considering meeting in person or a hybrid version, and it's not always all of us online for that special meeting, and we also have to consider the availability of someone like Nikki, who is really the only person who knows how to operate all of those different screens and machines to make this record.
Thank you, Trustee Seguin. I suppose even if we, Mr. Seguin, I suppose even if we're all in person, we could jump online, all onto a Google Meet if we needed to and just record the Google Meet or the Zoom. Even if we were all here together in person, we could just make it virtual, even if we're sitting next to each other, right? Okay, Trustee Stankiewicz? Oh, Carla can't hear anything we're saying. Boardroom, unmute. Okay, thank you so much. So just to recap, we were talking about recording special meetings for transparency. We were just checking with Nikki about being able to record special meetings even if they are in person or last minute, and it seems like that would not be a problem, even if we all needed to jump onto a Zoom or a Google Meet in the same room. That way it can be recorded without having to have too much special attention. So we'll go ahead to Trustee Stankiewicz and then Trustee Toon.
I'm just wondering if this is to be consistent with other boards. Just that I did some research and not all other boards around us are in fact recording or live streaming. In fact, only Westwind posts their meetings. Wildrose, Prairie Rose, Palliser Horizon, Chinook Edge, Golden Hills, Prairie Land, Clearview, Buffalo Trail, none of them actually post or live stream video recordings of their meetings. And I do think that there is a point of hindrance of open and honest conversation in some cases. And for recorded meetings, that was a conversation that we had earlier when we were discussing this one, or previously live streaming our board meetings. Just a point to bring up that not all our comparative boards do such practices. So,
thank you, Trustee Stankiewicz. Trustee Toon?
Yeah, excuse me. I know it's not something that all boards do. I know Lethbridge 51 does it. But to me, it's kind of irrelevant who is or who isn't doing this. We've found it to be successful. It's worked. You can go on the views, and depending on what is being discussed at the meeting, we get people that otherwise would not know what was happening or have the ability to be here on a Monday morning, Monday afternoon because they work or have other commitments to engage with the board. So I think it's a win-win. It's a positive thing. I've got great feedback from people saying, oh, I actually watched what you guys were talking about the other day because their school had something that was getting discussed or whatever. So I think it's a good thing. We've had some bigger topics that get decided at a special meeting. There were some COVID related special meetings, and the Nanton solution was decided at a public meeting, at a special meeting that was open to the public, but the public didn't know about it, and the public can't watch that because it was a special board meeting. So that's why I think it's important that we include special board meetings, because I don't think it was the intent of the board to not have it be part of our transparent operation that we do so well here as a board.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Trustee Yagos?
I was just going to add on to what Trustee Toon said. Originally I was very hesitant about recording these meetings, but I think I have heard nothing but positive, plus the fact that one of our local papers goes word for word almost about these meetings, I think, when they don't have too much more to say. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but anyhow, and I do know, I've had the ATA rep ask if they could watch it live and then rather than come to a meeting, because all they do is sit there and they can't say anything anyhow. So I think it's a real benefit because people who want to come or uh, they have the opportunity to watch this. And the other thing is that I don't know how many of you've done it, but there's sometimes when if I missed something or I want to review something, you could go back and review it. And I found that to be very beneficial too. And recording the special board meetings, I think I have no problem with that because it's just an extension of our regular board meetings.
Thank you, Trustee Yagos. We'll go to Trustee Gimber.
Well, thank you. So I am basically just in line with the other trustees. Special meetings usually have big decisions being made at them, so I think that it's really important for them to be recorded. You can go back and see things. The public can listen to them again and understand more why decisions are made at those meetings. So yeah, I do believe they should be recorded.
Thank you, Trustee Gimber. Trustee Stankiewicz.
I would be more in favor of a consistent communications strategy over this. I think that especially with things that we've talked about previously, and Brad mentioned the net and solution, I think a consistent and communication policy would be a better approach, but the will of the board.
Thank you, Trustee Stankiewicz. If there's no further conversation around this, I agree that consistency is great. It's important for those that we represent to hear the conversations around the decisions we make, so I would be in favor of this. Did you want to say anything in closing, Trustee Toon?
Sure, thank you, Chair. I just want to say I appreciate the work that staff do in posting our meetings. Nikki does a tremendous job helping us through this meeting, and I know that this will just help enhance our engagement with our stakeholders and allow them to participate how they can with our meetings and be as informed as possible, because I do think we have amazing dialogue and discussion as we're doing our work, and the more people that can hear that and participate in that virtually, I think is just a win-win for us and our governance and the division. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve to record all special meetings and post for transparency starting today, October 24th, 2022. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is passed. Thank you. F2, Superintendent Evaluation. In response to the September 26, 2022 Notice of Motion, this year we have some extraordinary requirements from our superintendent and associate superintendent team, extensive projects that require extra time. Trustee Stankiewicz will discuss the superintendent evaluation. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees suspend the superintendent evaluation for 1 year. This is being moved by Trustee Stankiewicz. Mr. Perry, unless there's another trustee, I would ask that Mr. Perry take over so I can recuse myself for this conversation. Is there any other trustee that would like to chair? Okay, then I'll turn it to you, Mr. Perry.
Okay, I will do that. So the superintendent evaluation in response to the September 26, 2022 notice of motion. This year we have an extraordinary requirements for our superintendent and associate superintendent team, extensive projects and require extra time. Trustee Stankiewicz will discuss the superintendent's evaluation. So, do you want to speak to that? Okay. With that, the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees suspend the superintendent evaluation for 1 year. Maybe I should have gone there first. Can I get a motion for that? Trustee Stankiewicz, okay.
She made it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I will open it up for questions or comments. Yes.
This is something that I told Trustee Stanglitz I would be happy to co-sponsor with her. While I think that superintendent evaluation is extremely important, I believe we work very closely with our superintendent and are very aware of the things that he is doing every year. And when it comes down to our board self-evaluation and our superintendent evaluation, that day could be used, there would be a lot more benefit to spending that day on the board self-evaluation and on a separate day having just a year-end wrap-up from our superintendent rather than a full evaluation, especially considering the fact that we are halfway through his contract. We still have 3 years in this contract, and while it's important to know what's happening and get that year-end update, a full evaluation I don't believe is important for this year in particular, based on all of the other large projects that are happening and are taxing on his time. I know that it is a lot of work to get that evaluation out to us. And so for those reasons, I would support this motion and feel like for the 2022-2023 school year, this would be beneficial for our superintendent.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. Is there any further comments, questions? Trustee Toon.
Thank you. I'd be against this motion. I sat previously on a board where we altered the evaluation process, and it really didn't serve, I think, the board or the relationship with the superintendent. I think consistency is key when we're governors, and making sure that we're always doing what we've laid out in policy and sticking to that policy and process. So it's predictable for the superintendent and the board, and we can continue on. There is some work in the evaluation process, but I think it's healthy, and it helps us to have great discussions. It is kind of a hand in glove situation where we're doing our evaluation at the same time as the superintendent, and we have that good general full day discussions. I think there are a lot of things going on externally, but if you look over the last few years, there's been extraordinary things is kind of the new norm. Over the last couple of years, we've gone through other years with transportation reviews or big things happening, and we've never, in the middle of COVID, we never suspended evaluation. So I'm not really comfortable in doing this now. I think it sets kind of a dangerous precedent. Anytime there's a busier year that we look at not having an evaluation, I think it's always healthy to do that, and it helps strengthen the relationship because it reaffirms that we're on the right path as a board and that we're in step and in tune with our superintendent, and we continue on that amazing relationship that I think we have right now. So that's why I'd be opposed to this.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. I see Trustee Gimber's hand is up. Trustee Gimber, do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. I feel like the day that we do the superintendent evaluation is our opportunity to evaluate and provide feedback. And because, it says right in here that this year we have extraordinary requirements for our superintendent and associate superintendent team. And for that reason alone, that is the most important time to be evaluating and providing feedback, when you're having the extraordinary requirements and the strange environments that we're in. So I would be opposed to this motion as it sits right now, but I do believe that there is a lot of movement that could be done in the way it's presented, or the amount of work that the superintendent has to go through to present to us his self-evaluation. So at this point, I would be opposed to the motion as is.
Thank you, Trustee Gimber. Is there any, Trustee Hodges?
I also appreciate our day together evaluating our superintendent and our board evaluation. It does make sure that we are aligned too. I appreciate what Trustee Gimber says, and maybe there's a better way of our superintendent having to present it to us, and maybe something that's maybe less time consuming for him. But I do agree that it's really good to look back on the work that not only has our superintendent done, but as a board, and where we've supported and just keeping us moving forward. I appreciate all the work that our superintendent and the whole central office, as I know that it's busy, but I think it's never not going to be busy anymore. And so maybe that's something else we can look at. I also don't support the motion the way it stands right now, but maybe that's something we can look at under our policy is how it's presented and not so time consuming, so.
Thank you, Trustee Hodges. I have Trustee Yegas, then Trustee Stengowitz.
I thought about this one, and I do agree that, you know, our superintendent does a lot of work, and I thought like we have given the teachers, we've taken into note what the teachers, the kind of work they've done and given them some time off. And then I thought, yeah, I think this is important. Sometimes we need to look beyond what we are doing, and maybe this is a time that we should look at what the superintendent is doing, and it is a lot of work. It is a time, and especially when we're doing it now, that it's a lot of work for him at the end of June. So I would support this this motion.
Trustee Stengowitz?
I'm just wondering if there's anyone that wanted to make an amendment. I'm open to change.
Trustee Toon?
Excuse me, thank you. Hearing the comments of reviewing what it looks like, I think is a substantive change over saying that we are suspending the superintendent evaluation for a year. So I would like to have that discussion, but I think that has to be a totally separate discussion because I think it is something completely different than saying we're taking a year off evaluation, which I would fully support. Having a review of what we as a board do for our evaluation at the same time as the superintendent and what that looks like, giving a lot of time for administration to have a heads up knowing what that could look like and have that discussion with them at committee of the whole, but I think that would have to come forward at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments, questions? If not, we'll let Trustee Stengowitz close if she'd like. If not, we'll just call the question. Okay. All right, so we will, because we have Trustee Gimber online, we will follow the practice that Chair Poitras has been following, and we will ask if there's anyone opposed to the motion, and if so, they can make that aware. So, any opposed? Trustee Gimber, that your hand is raised? Okay. Any for the motion? I guess we have three. It's 3 and 3, so that motion is defeated then. So, okay, I will turn the chair back over to Trustee Poitras.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation around that, and we'll move on to F3, Board Policy 16. As per Board Policy 16, school closures, modernization, and reconfiguration. Trustee Gimber, would you mind just muting your mic?
Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh, I'm so sorry.
You're fine. The board recognizes that under certain conditions, it may become necessary to consider the closure of a school or a portion of a school to ensure the responsible and efficient use of our resources. This is coming from Mr. Seguin. We'll have him speak to it, but the recommendation would be that the Board of Trustees consider the possible reconfiguration of the Granham School. We'll have that motion from Trustee Yegas. Oh, you can unmute.
I would like to move that this motion be postponed until a further date so that we could get more information from central office regarding the regarding this motion.
Thank you so much.
And I'm not putting a specific date on this right now because I think central office has to tell us when they've got the information available.
Okay, perfect. So this recommendation has not been moved by anyone at this point, but we do have a motion on the floor to postpone item F3 until a later date with no specific date in mind at this time. We can debate this if there's anyone who wants to discuss. Sorry, we would just be debating whether or not it should be postponed, and then it needs a majority vote. So is there any discussion around why we would not or would postpone this item so that we can get more information? Go ahead, Trustee Toon.
No, I would be in support of the motion. I appreciate the fact that this is going to be a good discussion on it, and it would allow our administration to bring back more information. And when all members are here as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay.
I also agree with that.
Thank you, Trustee Singletz. Okay, so all in favor of postponing item F3 until a later date. Sorry, are there any opposed? Trustee Gimber, your hand is still up. There we go. So are there any opposed to postponing item F3 until a date in the future when more information can be brought forward? Okay, seeing none, that is passed, and we will make note of that. Trustee Long, can you put that in our list? No? Okay. We will move on to F4. Board meeting dates. I will recuse myself, and unless there is another trustee that would like to chair this, I will ask Mr. Perry to chair it. Seeing none, we'll turn it to Mr. Perry. Thank you.
Okay. So F4, Board Chair Lacey Poitras will discuss exchanging the November 14th, 2022 meeting of the whole and the November 28th board meeting dates. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees change the November meeting of the whole date to November 28th and the regular board meeting date to the 14th of 2022. Trustee Poitras, you're making that motion? Okay. And would you like to speak to it?
I would, thank you. Our regular board meetings happen on the third Monday of each month. Unfortunately, in November, it happens on the fourth Monday. This is traditionally because it works better with our audit dates. Without double checking that or thinking about it, I booked a personal engagement that I won't be able to attend on the 28th. While I don't think everything should change for one trustee, I do believe we are having some very important conversations today that may be postponed to that meeting and then again at that meeting. And so I would ask that on November 14th, we still do our school visits in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we do our board meeting. And then on November 28th, we would still have our presenters that would normally come to our board meeting, so we're not switching dates on them, but we would then have a meeting of the whole rather than our board meeting. So we're simply moving the meeting of the whole to the 28th and the board meeting to the 14th. I guess my recommendation should also say that there would be a special board meeting on the 28th to discuss the audited financials, which regularly take place at the end of November. For this reason, I've proposed these changes today.
Okay, so the motion, because you're the mover, the motion has been amended to include a special board meeting on the 28th to address the audited financial statements. Okay.
Yes.
Trustee Toon.
Possibility because it's just semantics, but could we just say that the November 14th meeting would be switched to an additional public board meeting and keep the 28th because it essentially is serving the same function. That way it's not called a special meeting, and that way too we could anything that not that we ever go long as in meetings wise, but we could agenda items that we don't finish on the 14th would automatically carry on to the next meeting date. I think that would help facilitate the work because both those dates are traditionally been a heavier amount of stuff, just timing and with the audit and thing that's out there. But I support doing this to help support Trustee Poitras attending.
I would consider that a friendly amendment to have both the 14th and the 28th be board meetings.
Considered public board meetings.
Yes, and I would consider that friendly.
Okay, so that would remove the requirement for a special board meeting as well. Okay, Nikki, do you have that? Yeah, I think that's it, right? Everybody good with that? Okay, any further? Yeah, yeah. This motion would not change the 28th. It would continue to be a public board meeting and no special meeting. Trustee Hodges.
Although you previously stated, trustee, Poitras, that, you know, you don't want to change for one board member, it's also really important when we're making decisions at the board table to have as many of us at the table as possible. I know sometimes that can't happen. It's happening today. And it always makes it really hard when there's one member that's not there. And so we've already had these dates booked in our calendars. It's not something adding above and beyond. I would be okay with the switch since it's not adding any extra days in November.
Thank you, Trustee Hodges. Trustee Stankiewicz.
I would be hesitant to support this, even though I know that it's important for all members to attend as many meetings as possible. We made this schedule specifically so that we'd have a meeting of the whole to prepare for the next board meeting, and this would effectually negate those efforts to have continuity.
Thank you, Trustee Stankiewicz. Is there any further comments? Okay. If not, Trustee Poitras, would you? Oh, did the hand just come up? Okay. Trustee Gimber, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I will just add that since I'm echoing some of the comments that have already been made there, that since the dates aren't actually new dates being created, it's still two dates that we had in our calendar, and we're just kind of changing what the purpose of the meeting is. With Trustee Toon's amendment, I would be in favor of that.
Okay, and that was a friendly amendment, so it's okay. So can Trustee Gimber see the screen? Or she can. Okay. Okay. So the motion that now lies on the table is that the Board of Trustees change November 14th meeting of the whole to a regular board meeting, and that's all the change is. So Trustee Poitras, would you like to close? And then we'll call the question.
Yeah, I just appreciate the friendly amendment. It saves paperwork for a special board meeting, and I appreciate that all voices at the table are important, and we have felt, you know, even having one voice not here, it's hard to not have everyone in the room. So I appreciate the efforts to, you know, make this change, and you know, I just appreciate that and think that this is a great way to accomplish that.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. I will now call the question. All those opposed that the Board of Trustees change November 14th meeting of the whole to a regular board meeting, please so indicate. Okay, that motion is carried, and I will transfer the chair back to Trustee Poitras.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to F5, MAO, Willow Creek Bus Driver Association. The Livingston Range School Division Labor Relations Committee has negotiated and reached a memorandum of agreement with the Willow Creek School Bus Driver Association. And so the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees ratify the memorandum of agreement between the Livingston Range School Division and the Willow Creek School Bus Driver Association as presented. This is being moved by Trustee Stankiewicz. Is that correct? Perfect. And I will turn it over to her.
I want to thank Mr. Perry for his tireless work and helping facilitate this operation of this recommendation. We came together as a committee, and our goal was to make sure that the bus drivers knew that we were going forward with also their best interests at heart, as well as the division. And I believe that was something that we were able to achieve with this recommendation. So take it away, Mr. Perry.
Thanks, Trustee Stankiewicz. I'll just add just a few comments. Trustee Stankiewicz certainly captured the intent is to ensure that the bus drivers felt appreciated. They have a significant role in the division in transporting students to and from school and making sure that they arrive safely and in a good mindset to learn. And so we really appreciate our bus drivers. It is a negotiation. We did have very good meetings. The meetings were amenable and very respectful on both sides. At the end of the day, I believe that we came to a conclusion, like Trustee Stankiewicz indicated, where we felt comfortable, that it was sustainable, that it was within our ability to adjust to, and they felt appreciated on their side. Because it is labor, we discussed the details of the memorandum of agreement in an in-camera session with the board. If the board were not to vote in favor of the memorandum of agreement, then we would be back at the table negotiating with the association. And so the details are left in the in-camera session. There are a few highlights. The association has ratified the memorandum of agreement on their side of things, so their members have voted and ratified it. There were significant changes that were proposed throughout this negotiations. We also were looking for a more simpler or a simpler way of compensating trustees, similar to what other jurisdictions are doing, where we would be looking at an hourly rate and number of kilometers versus the convoluted way that we currently calculate compensation. It was positively received from the Willow Creek School Bus Drivers Association, and we felt good about it as well and going forward. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions for any of the committee members, Trustee Yegas and Trustee Stankiewicz and myself were there, as well as Mr. Feller. Unfortunately, Trustee Long, who is the chair of the committee, is not able to be here, and I know he would have liked to have said a few words, but I'll leave it at that. If there's any questions or comments prior to the motion being voted on, then I certainly would answer those questions.
Thank you so much, Trustee Stankiewicz and Mr. Perry. Questions from the trustees? Go ahead, Trustee Toon.
Not a question, but just thank the committee and administration for their great work on this, and a huge thank you to our bus drivers. As a parent, I know that days like today when winter hits, that it can be difficult for our bus drivers, but they do a tireless job to make sure our kids are safe and get to where they need to go, whether it's school or extracurricular activities, and just phenomenal the dedication that they have, and really appreciate all that they do.
Thank you, Trustee Toon. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I too would like to echo the gratitude for our bus drivers, and I also just was wondering, for those that sit on this committee, how do you feel it was received? Do you think that this ratification, if we ratify, that they'll feel happy and that they would also sign this? Or will there be upset bus drivers?
So the bus drivers have already ratified it, which means if we ratify it, then we will come to a signed agreement. But I'll just add, yeah, the negotiating committee that we had multiple days where we negotiated with them so that they could go back and talk with their membership prior to coming to any conclusion. And so, although it's negotiations, you ask for things, you may not get everything right. We have to be able to live within the resources that we have available and so forth. Both sides felt that this was a win-win, and I think that's what we're always reaching out for. And so I felt that it was well received. If other members of the committee want to comment on that, they can, but that's how I felt.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Go ahead, trustee Yagos.
I totally agree with Mr. Perry that it's a win-win, and if they ratified it, they're happy. Or at least they're satisfied with what was presented to them. So, yep.
Okay, thank you very much. So, the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees ratify the memorandum of agreement between the Livingston Range School Division and the Willow Creek Bus Driver Association as presented. This was moved by trustee Stangwitz. Did you want to close on that, trustee Stangwitz? Okay, so with that, are there any opposed? Okay, seeing none, that is passed. And thank you to all those involved in that negotiation. Okay, perfect. So we're going to move on to our discussion and information items. Oh, just kidding. That's just a joke. Oh, I put those in G, right? Oh, sorry, trustee. No, I was thinking of the reports. Okay, F6, we have the recommendation that the Board of Trustees, thank you everyone, support school council or parent advisories by ensuring trustees are involved by requiring all school councils invite trustees to report and participate in all meetings. This is being moved by trustee Toon. Perfect, and I will recuse myself as chair. If there are no trustees who wish to chair this, we will move it over to Mr. Perry. He upset me this weekend, and so I'm really trying to make him do a lot of chairing today. Just kidding.
Okay, happy to do it. So, did you already read through the recommendation? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, trustee Toon, would you like to speak to it, please?
Thank you. So at the beginning of the year, we do a lot of discussion as a board about making sure we have assignments made at our organizational meeting to support school councils, because I know that we all appreciate the work that they do. And there was just some question raised previously about attendance and the requirements of school councils to invite trustees. So I think that this sends a positive message that we support the work they do and that we want to ensure that we're there and that we're invited to report back, because it's one of the key things we use as board members to share the work that is going on of our board meetings and of the division. And I think that sharing those messages there with the public also gives them a great chance to give us feedback and have good dialogue on what's going on. So that's why this motion is coming forward.
Thank you, trustee Toon. Trustee Poitras.
I just have a question. To have this reflected, should it be added to the motion that this be reflected in our policies under role of the trustee, or is there somewhere that it should be added so that if a parent wanted to see, you know, where it says that trustees would need to be attending school councils, I just didn't know if there was somewhere that needed to be reflected, whether that is in policy or so.
Trustee Hodges, are you answering the question? Okay, go for it.
It is under our rules that we attend school councils, but it's, I guess it's not under our rules that we can make school councils, but it is under our rules that we attend school council meetings, and that's why we divide up and assign board members to the schools. But I'm just going to look quickly at our policies really quick, but I'm pretty sure, but I'll get back to you on which policy.
Thank you. I think the point's well raised about the requirement to have trustees attend. I think that would be better placed in role of the board. That way, future boards know that it's a requirement that we attend those, and that's really the only sandbox we have to place it in. We can't put it in an admin procedure because we don't approve that, but I think that's a well-raised point. So if that, amendment is proposed.
Go ahead.
So it is in policy under role of the trustee. following board-approved process for engaging parents, students, and in the community matters related to education, such as attending designated school councils. But trustee Toon made the suggestion that it falls under board roles? Role of the board, this is under role of the trustee right now. I don't we can have it in both, but it does state that for us to go there.
Trustee Yeagas had a comment, and then Trustee Toon.
I'm just going to look, but I think it's under the board annual work list too. So it is already in policy, and so that, we're expected to do this.
Trustee Toon.
Yeah, I think the question has arisen of the requirement of us to be there, and so I think that the clarity would be well served to place it under, having it both in the role of the trustee as was read, I think is appropriate, but having it also be, because it's not the trustee who's saying that we should be there, required to be there. I think it's the board stipulating it in this motion. So whatever amendment, somebody needs to help me with my farmer grammar to get this straightened out.
Trustee Poitras.
I think one of the most important parts of this is that it says by requiring all school councils to invite trustees to report at and participate in the meetings. A lot of what this, when it's talking about the role of the trustee, it's the role of the trustee to attend the meeting. But as far as reporting at the meeting, I think that should be listed as part of the role of the board is to attend. So I would make the amendment that the Board of Trustees support school council parent advisory by ensuring trustees are involved by requiring all school councils invite trustees to report and participate in all meetings, and this be reflected in the role of the board or in the policy 30. Oh, sorry. I was like, do we have 30 policies? And this be reflected in policy 3, role of the board. That way it would specifically speak to the trustees reporting at the meeting and not just being there to attend only.
Thank you, Trustee Poitras. I see we have 2 additional comments, but just a comment. Does invite need to be in there if you're saying that it's requiring all school council, or just requiring all trustees to report at and participate in all school council meetings or something of that nature?
I think it is important because it's, if the chair is inviting, then they know that that's someone that needs to be invited. And if there are changes that are happening, like, hey, we're canceling tonight, it's happening tomorrow, or we're changing location, that is the responsibility of the chair to make sure that the trustee is aware of when those are happening. Although trustees can usually find out. I, the other day, had to go to a parent Facebook forum and ask when it was. And so I think it is important that they are invited. Even though it's required, the invitation should be sent out so the trustee has all the accurate information.
Great. Trustee Yeagas.
The word participate, I was always given the understanding that we state our, we give our, the list of things that, we happened in a school, in a board meeting. If we're asked a question that pertains to, trusteeship and things like that, but an active participation is not something, we're there to listen and to observe and see what is happening. That was always my understanding at these meetings, not to take a direct participation, because we do not have the right to vote at these meetings.
Thank you, Trustee Yeagas. I see Trustee Toon's hand.
Yeah, and the point is well taken. I think to participate is listening. If I'm participating in this meeting, it doesn't mean I'm speaking in this meeting, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're entitled to vote in it. So that's why I think that we need to be engaged while we're there. It doesn't mean that we're sharing our own thoughts and opinions, But I can't remember a school council that I've been in that question wasn't raised at one point other than the report. Well, what is the board doing about this? Or is there something that you, so that's why I'd be hesitant to take it out, because then a future trustee might read this and say, I just have to give a report and then I can leave the meeting. Or I don't need to say anything, where I think it's key. What happens outside of the report is usually more important than what happens while giving the report.
Thank you. Trustee Hodges, did you have a comment?
No, trustee Toon took what I was going to say. Thank you.
Okay. And Trustee Gimber did have her hand up, but she took it down. So, Trustee Yegas, did you have another comment? Oh, you have your hand back up. Okay, Trustee Gimber.
Okay, so I'm struggling with what the intent is behind this motion. Is it to require trustees to report and participate in the meetings? Or are we looking more for the trustees, or sorry, for the councils to be inviting all trustees and requiring the councils to invite all trustees to their meetings? The wording is just confusing to me. What the actual, and what is the purpose behind this motion? Is it to get the reporting back at the board meetings?
Trustee Toon.
Yeah, so it is to get the reporting back. I think if we're not aware as a board member when the meeting is, it's not the intent to exclude us or have us not be there. I don't think necessarily, but to clarify and make sure that it's known that it is a requirement for us to be there. We get a new chair or a new school council or a new principal, they might not know that this is something that it's not just tradition, because I know other places the trustees aren't as engaged with school councils as we are, but the board has set that out in our priorities and in policy that it's a priority for us to be there, because this is how we engage, one of the key ways we engage with stakeholders. So that's kind of where this is coming from.
Thank you. Trustee Toon, any additional comments, questions? Trustee Yegas.
I still have a problem with that word participate. I would like to take the word and use maybe engage. I understand where Trustee Toon is coming from, but they could also look at this and think that somebody in the future could look at this and think participate means that you're actively involved by talking. And I don't think that is not what we are doing. We are there to, if we're asked a question, to respond, of course, but not to monopolize the councils. So I would like to retake, if I don't know if that'll be a friendly amendment, to use the word engage.
I apologize. I'm feeling in a difficult mood because when I hear engage, that just, I think, is more direct, more forceful than participate, because we talk about active or passive participation. When you're engaged, to me, that just feels like you're more forward pushing in it. So I would say no, but whatever the will of the board is, I think that this is important.
Trustee Yegas, are you open to other language, or would you like to make that motion?
I don't have my thesaurus with me right now to look at another word, but if somebody could come up. As I said, to me, participate means that you are actively talking. And that's not what we do at a at a council meeting. So I think if somebody could come up with another word very quickly. Where's our language people here?
I'll go ahead. Superintendent Sequin.
I'll just draw your attention to, so Board Policy 4 and Board Policy 3, I think, capture a lot of what I'm hearing in the discussion today. In those two policies, it talks about attendance at school council meetings. It talks about sharing the key messages. And Policy 4, let me see which number this is, 49C. Each trustee will refrain from participating in discussion, debate, or voting on any issues in which a personal conflict of interest is declared. But you know, I think in the board policy 3, it does refer to the work list. I think that's what Clara mentioned in there. I'm not saying you shouldn't move ahead with something like this to reiterate and make clear your desire to participate, if that's the word, to participate in school council meetings. But really, I think your conversation is capturing the essence. You are there to listen, to hear the voice, and to share and be that liaison between the work of the board with individual school councils, right?
So where does that leave us? So are you still proposing an amendment to the motion, trustee, I guess?
It was just pointed out to me that the word participate is in policy. So if it's in policy, I'm not going to argue with policy. Okay. So I would say the word liaise, but on the other hand, we have to change policy. So I will leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, trustee. I guess so. We are back at the original amended motion by trustee Poitras. Any further comments, questions around that? If not, we will let trustee Toon close on that.
Thank you. No, I think there's been really great discussion. Our purpose here is to just try and enhance what we do as trustees and make sure we're being engaged with our stakeholders. So I'd ask for your support on this.
Okay, thank you. So, yep, it's a friendly amendment. That's right. Okay, so the recommendation is that the Board of Trustees supports school council parent advisory by ensuring trustees are involved, by requiring all school councils invite trustees to report and participate in all meetings, and this be reflected in the Board Policy 3 role of the board. And any opposed to that motion? Seeing none, that is carried. I will transfer the chair back to trustee Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. We're moving on to discussion items G1, which is with Mr. Perry. So the 2022-2023 enrollment numbers, Jeff Perry, Associate Superintendent of Business Services, will review the official September 30th, 2022 enrollment figures. I'll turn that over to you, Mr. Perry.
Okay, thank you. I think Nikki is going to bring that report up. Okay, so this is the same format in that we presented to you around the 23rd of September, or whenever we had our last board meeting, 26th of September.
26th.
Yeah. So like I indicated, those were preliminary numbers. These are the actual numbers as of September 30th, and within that time frame, things were cleaned up. There were some changes. So overall, it changed. It went down 23.8 FTE and 21 head count from the original numbers. So I'll go through these quickly just to identify maybe some trends and things of that nature with regards to their enrollment as we find at the end of September 30th. So you can see in the Nanton area, we are down 14 from projection, but only down 4 from last year. So AB Daily, and speaking with AB Daily School, there wasn't a clear understanding of the administrator there is first year, and so there may have been a mix-up on the numbers that were included in the original projection. And so there's a slight decline there in that area. When we look at Stavely, we are up 3 from projections, down 5 from the prior year, so we anticipated being down a little bit, but we're actually better than what we anticipated. Clara's Home, we're down 12 from projection, the majority of those coming from Willow Creek Comp, but overall we're up almost 27 students in that area. And the biggest comment around that is that those students came mid-year through the year, so they were already there. We did have some new students move in, and others move out. The net of that is being 27. We also have more students, and you'll see the trend overall coming back from the virtual school to attending in school. And so you'll see that at the bottom, but Claire's Home is also in that scenario. Grantham is down 1.5 from the prior year, down 5 from what was actually projected. And of course, that's just potentially a couple or a family moving out of town. Fort Macleod is down or is up 2.5 from the prior year, but down 15 from their projections. FP Walsh, that is a highly transient area with regards to students coming in and out. Many of those typically on the reserve. What we found in this area, though, is that there's more students in the outreaches this year. So students that were typically expected to be in FP Walsh are now attending our outreach program, which is not a bad thing. It shows the benefit of having alternative programming as well. And so more students are attending there. Pincher Creek was a really nice surprise, and people moved into the community. People also came from other schools that are within the community to our schools, and so that's the majority of rationale as to why we're up 26.5 from prior year and 25.5 from projection. They anticipated that they would be very close to where they were the prior year, but pleasantly surprised to be up. Livingstone, up 5 from the prior year, down 4.5 from projection. Crow's Nest Pass was another very nice surprise. And again, likely a few students moving in, but some going back to in-school attendance versus the virtual school. Up 23 from prior year, up 20.5 from the projections. Here's where you can see the increase in outreach. We're up 24 from the prior year and up 17 from projection. Colony schools are actually up 6.5 from the prior year, down 2.5 from projection. And international students are down 13 from the prior year, up 2 from projections. We're still working on having additional students come in for that program. But as of September 30th, that's where we sat. So when you look at that in-school attendance, we are up 14.9 from projection, and we're actually up 90 from 90.9 from the prior year. Okay, so we'll go to the second section, which is the not in-school students, which is the home education or the virtual students. We're down 38.75 from projections and down 59.13 from the prior year. And again, it's that trend of people going back into attendance at the school is what we're seeing in that area. That doesn't mean that the virtual school is not being utilized, because there's a number down lower that will identify that it's still being utilized even greater in many ways. But full-time students at the virtual school have decreased, and they've increased in the attendance at school. So the total FTE from projection is 23.85 down, but 31.78 increase from the prior year. When you look at head count, so remember, virtual students are considered, home education students are considered 0.25, ECS students are considered 0.5. When you take that all into consideration, it may have a different look at head count. We're actually 4.5 students down from last year, which is practically the same. And 48.5 students down from projection. However, how it impacts funding is we're still working on and determining, but when you have students moving into the school, we receive more funding for that than when they're attending virtual school and so forth. So it may be a good news. However, we have talked a little bit about with the board our funding framework. When we look at rural small schools, if they go below a certain number, there's a big jump there too, and we know that that's potentially happening in one school, and so we may have to look at that funding, but we hopefully are going to break even there. There's detail with regards to the head count. You can see we're 34, we anticipated 34 more ECS, but grades 1 to 12, we have 31.9 more, right, which offsets that. Students with virtual school concurrent enrollment, there's more students that are actually attending school that are actually taking a course here or there from the virtual school, So like I said, the virtual school is being utilized. It may be more by students that have gone back to the classroom and they're taking one course here or there to accommodate their schedules and things like that. So preschool, pre-K program hasn't changed much from the previous one, so I'll just leave it at that. Hopefully that's sufficient detail. This sheet changes every year. I know we have to try and figure it out, but it's because the types of students we have change every year, right? So going from in school to virtual to homeschool, the types of programming. So hopefully that helps you understand the enrollment throughout the jurisdiction. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take some.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Are there any questions from the trustees around these numbers? Okay, seeing none, we appreciate the preliminary numbers and then seeing these ones now at this time, and where we all kind of laid or ended up, and the explanation on where some of those students moved to. So thank you very much. We will move to item G2, the 2021-2022 Alberta Education Assurance Measures. Chad Kuzik, our Associate Superintendent of Curriculum and Innovation, will update the Board of Trustees on the 2021-2022 Alberta Education Assurance Measures. We'll turn that to you, Mr. Kuzik.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Kuzik.
That's close enough. So thank you, Nikki. Nikki's going to pop this up. I did share this with each and every one of you too to take a look at. So I'm just going to go over some of the stuff with you. As you can see in the first slide, our mission, vision, and core values is how I try to use that as a lens to go through this to provide some information and some understanding of some of these surveys. As you look next on the next one there, you'll see that there's a lot missing and there's more coming. I expect that hopefully in the next couple of weeks to be able to fill some of that in, but we felt it was important to the public and to you to get out what we know so far and some of the supplementary data that's in there as well. So as you'll see in the next one, Nikki, that right now student growth and achievement, you're going to see similar kind of small declines, if you will, and sometimes big ones, and sometimes we have some growth as well too in a variety of these areas when it comes to surveys. So I try to link it close to the province as I can. So for this one here with the student engagement piece as an example, we're at 84% and the province is at 85%, and we came down from 84.9. They came back down from 85.6. You see a slight decrease in a lot of these areas, and you can probably understand that COVID may have had something to do with some of these results and what we've gone through in the next 3 years. So another way to look at that that number. If you look at this one too, if you we anticipate this to be the green in the future, and that the decrease comes from the staff and students in this particular result. Next one. Citizenship, you're going to see here a similar decline as a province, and traditionally we've done high in this one, and we remain high. As you can see, it's adjusted to the decline, but we're still at that acceptable range. And where we're seeing some of those movement is in that teacher category for sure, from 93 in 2020 to 89.7. So that's some of the pieces that we see moving in citizenship. The three-year high school completion rate. This is something we've been working on for quite some time, and it's nice to see we maintain the improvements from last year. We have to take into account there's been no diploma in both of the, in some of these results. So that's a part of these pieces, but as you see, there's some consistency there as we move forward. So, next one. So that was, sorry about that, Nikki. Next one, please. So one more. There we go. 4-year. We've seen significant improvements from the previous year. Again, that there's no diploma, to keep that in mind, but you're starting to see a trend here of students getting through. You're going to see dropout rate as we go forward. We heard about the virtual school already, and alternative program that's available. I think, and our career practitioners and off campus, and I could go on, but there's pieces in here you're going to see that some of that data is showing that some of that work is paying off. So the next one, 5-year, we're down 3% from last year, but this was expected based on the graduation rates from 2019 and 2020. And so, yeah, that's something that we're working towards. We anticipate this to go up next year based on the 2020-21 graduating class. So the next one there is education quality. We did see an overall slight decline in the parents and teachers, but again, we're very close to the province, very high in that parent category and high overall. But as the students, we saw a little bit of a movement in that area, but roughly, like it looked like approximately a few percentage from year over year. So yeah, we saw some movement in that area for education quality. Next one. Welcoming, caring, safe learning environments. So again, we're above the province, but still notice a slight decrease, and we saw that decrease in the student staff, but a slight increase in the parents. This is a new measurement, and we'll get a clearer understanding as we move forward. So again, I'm trying to highlight some of the pieces that we saw some movements in. Next one. Access to supports and services. Again, we're above the province is a new measurement, and we'll get more understanding in the next 2 to 3 years to see where we're at. But so far, we're above the province. Next one. This is where we did see a change from 2018 overall 82% down to 2022 a 75%. So we saw a decrease of 4.5 in overall, but most of that came from the parents, or there was movement or some. We saw some numbers at that 7 to 9 parents from grades 7 and 9, approximately 25 decrease extent they were involved in, or a decrease in the question that said, "At what extent were you involved in decisions about your school?" So we saw a movement in that area from parents, specifically grade 7 and grade 9, and something we'll be looking into as we move forward. So. Supplementary measures. These are some things that are continuing to be measured. Some data we've collected over the years. You want to see how we're doing. And you'll see it's a mix of a variety of things. And I'll kind of go over some of the pieces that we've been working on and we'll continue to track. So next one, Nikki, the one I'm super proud of, working on this with the crew, as I mentioned, is that dropout rate. We used to have a big red mark there about 3 years ago. And we're starting to see that working. We're starting to see 4% increase to the positive. And oh, it's all good. And so we'll continue to look at that. Again, we have to be. I mean, there's no diplomas and things of that nature. We have to have a lens on this as well too. But I know that we've worked hard as a division to make sure our kids get through during this tough time. So go to in-service. Next one, in-service jurisdictional needs. We see that we've maintained that, and it's been maintained for the last 4 years. So we continue to work hard towards that. Next one, another one somewhat proud of is the lifelong learning piece. So we saw significant improvements, specifically in the parents, in the your child is taught the knowledge, skills, and attitudes necessary for learning throughout their lifetime. So lots of green and blue on that. We hope to maintain that level going forward. So. With some of the program we have available to our students. The next one here is program of studies, and we know we're working towards some of those pieces. We're intermediate throughout, similar to the province, but we do know that we saw a decrease or identified an issue in the ability to offer other languages and drama for grades 4 to 9. So we're aware of that, and we continue to look for innovative ways to be able to fill that need for students. But this is traditionally something we've been working on for years based on just our ruralness. Next one, program of studies at risk students. Again, looking through that, we're above the province in most of the sections or all the sections, but there's still work to do in that student and teacher piece. And we'll continue to work towards that. We did maintain it through COVID, but through the last 2 years, I should say. But at the same time, there's work to be done for sure. So. Next one, and the Rutherford. This is one we continue to have small but steady increases as we get students to be able to have access to that and based on their marks. So next one, safe and carry is something we traditionally have done well, and we remain very high and maintain that in excellence. So those are the colors we always like to see. We did see some movement in that teacher area, but it's down from 96 to 94%. So still very high. In regards to that, but something we'll be looking at teachers and getting their feedback on as well. And program access, this here we stayed at that intermediate level. We're significantly above the province in some realms, But we did see the student decrease of 5%. At school, you can get the help you need when using the school library. That's when the one question I saw different was that piece, and this is something I'll work with our Learning Commons facilitators about and see what's going on there and talk to some of the principals. So, but how to leverage that Learning Commons to be able to support student learning and program access. And school improvement, this is something we've seen, we're still at intermediate, but you do see that some of those ones we've lost some ground regarding that in overall and in parent and teacher areas. So again, trying to look at that and understanding some of the elements from that. We're seeing mostly noticeably in parents 7 to 12 and some students in 10 to 12. So more detailed analysis will be taking place with that. Transition rate. So for this particular one, next one, sorry, yep. This is students going on to post-secondary, and it's been real difficult to track some of these students across provinces. Again, for Livingston Range, we have to have that lens that if students go to the United States or out of the province, we don't know. They don't get calculated inside this. So so it's something that I'm working with our career practitioners on to be able to identify where those students go if we do know, to have some kind of track beyond that. So the province, if the students stay in the province of Alberta, we'll see some of that data. So, but this could mean that we have a lot of students going to the States. It's hard to say, or going to BC or Victoria. And I just, one more, Lacey. The next, Trustee Forchus. Work preparation. Work preparation is another thing that we're working. It's the second highest in the last 5 years. And the parents felt that we reached that very high level, so, which is excellent. So that's something we're working on with our career practitioners in the group. And that's the presentation. So open for some questions now.
Thank you, Mr. Kuzak. My question is, if you just go back one, or you don't even really have to go back, but when we talk about following students to post-secondary transition, I think when we talk about success for all students, and especially with some of our current programming and our RAP program, we have a lot of students that we know are not shooting for post-secondary, but they are looking to go directly into a trade or, so is there any way of tracking that? So we're seeing here, like, we're at the intermediate level, but we live in an area with a demographic that we have a large number of our students who are not ever shooting for post-secondary, but we are providing programming and supports to get them more quickly to their chosen field of work, which just may not require post-secondary. So we may not ever move past that intermediate because we don't, in fact, have enough students that are going that route.
So I believe this data.
Can you unmute yourself? Thanks, Mr. Cusack.
I believe this data includes those students going for trades at the different colleges across
Perfect.
Alberta. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sorry that I jumped in there first off the bat. Is there any other questions from other trustees? It's a lot of really great information. It tells a piece of a lot of different stories. Any trustees who want to jump in? No? Trustee Toon?
Thanks. Just surprised at seeing how consistent some of the things are across the province, all things considering, like the high school to post-secondary transition. I think with the years that we've had, the last couple, there would have been more variance in there, but I think that could be a possibility there with some of the stuff we've seen locally. But I'm excited to, as you get more information and can dig deeper into the data, you bringing stuff forward more of the local context of why we're seeing some of the trends and in hotspots that we can see across the division. And always great to hear your plans to help increase the supports in those areas, because I think that's something that we do really well, where we get data to see. It's good to get the information, because that testing helps facilitate that, and the surveys are good. But I really struggle with the amount of parents or students that fill out some of these things with the numbers. You get you can have big swings when we're talking such a small sample size. So I really like the data that shows student achievement and how we're doing there, because I think that also shares a great story of how we're doing. But I just phenomenal job always bringing this to us, and I look forward to seeing it come forward again in the future.
Thank you. And on that note, I received PATs on Friday, and we have some PAT data on Friday. So more information to come for sure. So
Thank you, Trustee Toon and Mr. Kuzak. Okay, seeing no other comments, I just want to thank you for bringing this and congratulate you and the division. We really have been focusing on those dropout rates, that's safe and caring, and we've really seen, even in these difficult times, those numbers have maintained or even increased, which is so wonderful. And, you know, seeing that focus on those things and getting those results lets us know that in the areas that we will focus on moving forward that need improvement, that we will get those results and we'll find the right way to move forward. So we appreciate all the work that goes into collecting this information and finding the story behind the data. So thank you so much for presenting that, Mr. Kuzak. We appreciate that. We have had both G3 and G4 presentations, so we'll move on to G5, our administrative procedures. The senior administration team will review the current proposed changes to the administrative procedures 102, 130, 141, 348, 350, and 432. I will turn that over to Mr. Seguin and let you delegate as you see fit.
Thank you. Yes, there's a lot of updates to the admin procedures. Most of these are more administrative in nature, but I will ask Chad maybe to speak to the procedures that he was most directly involved with, and then Richard, and I think Jeff might have something on there as well. So if we could go in that order.
okay, this one here is one we're working towards to be able to clean up the language that's in there to make it more relevant and to meet to the Education Act and the way we do planning in Livingstone Range in Alberta. So as you go through it, Nick, you can see that we just switched some of the wording that was associated with that into the school education plans and annual education results. Try to make it was linked together. School education, again, annual education keeps going down. And so there's just some wording changes that are there. There's one, though, that I want to bring to your reminder. Yes, number 5. It's basically you'll see there's a change in date. So the plans is to be submitted to the superintendent by May 31st each year. That change from, I do believe it was November sometime. So, and also the piece about the 3-year piece, this is ongoing. Yeah, November 30th is what it said before when they had to get that. And that's all based on how the insurance measures are being delivered now and the time periods that they've done through the province. So that's basically most of the changes that took place with this one.
And maybe 141, I think, is the next one, isn't it, Chad?
Yeah,
Yours?
the next
Okay.
was 141, and that one's not quite as easy. This one, there's been significant changes too, as Nikki grabs that. This is the video surveillance systems. Basically, we had as technology changes, so does our admin procedure on this one. So it's almost a rewrite in the first. There's a lot of changes, is what I'll get to say. So just as Nikki's going through it, there's most of the changes have occurred due to FOIP and FOIP regulations, making sure we're under that right there, and more definition in certain pieces. So as you scroll down, Nick, you see the first one. We put that purpose statement, which is something that we had before, which was sound. But as you go through, there's just more clarity on what the definitions are, on what it means by surveillance. So this is more stuff that was embedded based on working through Brownlee, I guess. Yeah, Brownlee, barristers and solicitors, working with them to make sure that this was in line with everything we need to do. They suggested having more of those pieces inside that. So in the procedures part is more clear, more definition of what we do with surveillance cameras and where they are and why they're there, basically. And so, again, it was referred to in our last min procedure, but was really more specific about that. And in regards, it all falls back to student safety, right? And keeps going back to student safety while recognizing there's FOIP issues concerned with this as too. So again, the rationale there, why one would be there, we go through the same process for the application from the from the school to be able to have one there, and it has to go before, it has to be allowed by us or by Daryl, actually, by the superintendent, to ensure those pieces go through there. But as you scroll through down a little bit farther, the one I'll bring it again, it gives more clear definitions of or where, how, and they're installed, and talks about school buses. This is when you start to first see that school buses are involved in this. It gives us guidance about those buses that do have cameras. What are the guidance around that, right? So it's very specific about those pieces. And if you scroll down, so yeah, who has access to it? This hasn't changed a ton, but again, they're more specific on about who gets access to them, and what does that process look like. And if you keep scrolling down, just again reasons why someone would access a camera that way, and then request to access personal information. So again, we had things in there that responded to what was requirements of FOIP. They just made it as clear as possible, even more so with that FOIP Act, and used the verbiage from there to make sure that we're doing everything properly when we're collecting that information. So we keep scrolling down. I'm sorry, folks, going through a lot of this. There's a lot of changes. We're trying to give you the highlights for sure. So retention of the video recording, and if law enforcement requires that, and what do we do? And there's a new form they fill out, which we're linked to. We had our own before. It's one of the big changes. Now we use the one that's standard across the province. And then just again was very clear on how long we retain certain records and for what reasons and for what time. So it gives that guidance, and yeah, and scrolling down. And so one part I think I missed in there, that the principal's, it's okay, it could be way back there, Nikki. The principal is also responsible for a lot of that, understanding where the cameras are and that making sure they're working. We do have people that look at that, but in the end of the day, that's different from the last one, is it's that principal's responsibility to make sure that the cameras are working. So, yes.
Mr. Kuzik, are these changes made with Brownlee, or does Brownlee have their eyes on it before or after? Or do they just make recommendations and then it's done by admin to kind of follow their recommendations?
Both. So we provided them for recommendations, and they provided recommendations. We brought it to our main council and asked for any changes. But for the most part, it stayed the way it was.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I can maybe just add, the administrative procedures are really in place to try to ensure that board policies, right, are enacted at an administrative kind of level in the schools. And so from time to time, there are significant changes in other legislation. And so our actions need to be adjusted, or if there's something in case law that comes up. And so all of these changes where we involve more legal consultation are again to make sure that the board is protected, that we have strong policy or procedures in place that our schools can then follow to make sure that students are safe, taken care of, the needs are met, and the board, any liability by the board is reduced significantly. And so this one was an overhaul, and it was probably 5-6 years since we last had some legal consultation and a review on this particular procedure. And so we felt it was time, and there were significant changes. So that's why Chad went through a lot of them there. But I would just add, all of the administrators have seen all of these proposed changes. If you're attending school council meetings in the month of October, these should be brought up and reviewed with not only with parents, but also with staff. And if administrators get any sort of feedback or any other kind of changes, questions come up, they have been asked to get that information to us by the end of this month. If there aren't any significant changes that would cause us to revisit some of these edits here, then the new versions would be posted to the website in early November.
Okay. Thank you for that clarity, Mr. Seguin. Okay, if there's no questions around 141, we'll move on to 348. Sorry, Mr. Feller, would you mind using your mic?
Voice that the mic actually helps. Thank you. So Admin Procedure 348 is about progressive student discipline. And as you take a look through this procedure, the biggest thing to note are the changes as related to the Education Act as we go through. I'm not sure if Nikki, you have the one that shows the markup on those, but if not, I will, yeah, okay. We'll talk about those. The first one that you'll note is that a student can be suspended from school or from school for 5 days. That was incorrect. In fact, a student can be suspended for 10 instructional days if we're moving to recommend expulsion. So those things have been noted all through in terms of the expectations. Nikki, keep on going down. We have needed to make an amendment to the process that we used before for a risk assessment. We used to use the VTRA, it was called, the Violent Threat Risk Assessment Guidelines, and we have now moved to the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines for our school jurisdiction to note what level of risk students are experiencing based on what is happening in their worlds. So the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines have been noted throughout. Nick, if you want to keep on going. And then just in terms of the procedure, it really is about putting the power back for the principal on determining what constitutes unacceptable behavior as it's related specifically to the Education Act, as well as our admin procedures on code of conduct. If you want to keep on going. And code of conduct, and I'll speak to this later, but I'll go into it now, that when we talk about it being made publicly available, our schools all have handbooks. And so that is where, one, through the handbook, it's made publicly available, but secondly, through their school websites, as well as our divisional websites. And if you keep on going. We have removed the working on a behavior support plan in conjunction with the behavior support team. We do have a team that supports our schools in creating a behavior support plan, but we no longer have a behavior support team. We have a learning services team that has become a little more ubiquitous in its approach to supporting students in our schools. And then you'll notice that the discipline practice has been changed to reflect the Education Act. And I think that is it. Yeah, and again, back to the Education Act, using that wording. And I think that's it, Nikki, for that one. And maybe if we want to go to Code of Conduct 350. And you'll note that most of the similarities between the Progressive Student Discipline and Code of Conduct is related to the Education Act and the wording that is within there. So if you want to keep on going down, again about instructional days for suspensions, same as reflected in the Progressive Discipline. Keep going down. And right there. I think that's it. I don't think there's been any changes other than that for there. And so if we want to go to school year calendar 130, this is where there has been some significant changes. So in the past, 3 years ago, we used a process whereby we gathered individuals to build a calendar together. It was a calendar that was supposed to be uniform throughout the division and be based on input from staff and school councils. And so the procedure was that by September 30th of each year, there was a 10-person committee that was appointed to take a look at building a school calendar. It included 2 representatives from Administrative Council, 2 representatives from the ATA, 2 from regional school council, 2 from regional student council, and 2 representatives from central office. And so the significant change there is one in that stakeholder feedback. Is that the original one, Nikki, or is that the one that we are on now? Okay, sorry. I just need to go to where I am. So now we have moved forward 3 years ago to creating a divisional school calendar that incorporates voice from multiple stakeholders. So we've gathered information from and input from staff, students, and families, as well as community members. The procedure itself has changed, that we want to ensure that we are being efficient with our resources and with our time, and to gather feedback by engaging stakeholders through a school calendar survey, which we initiated this year in the second week of October. And then the basic school year calendar will be developed in accordance with the following. So none of that stuff below here has changed. So everything in the original admin procedure is the same. We get feedback from admin council, get feedback from school councils, we get feedback from student councils, and we were able to then create that basic school calendar. It goes back out to admin councils and to school councils for review, as well as to student councils for review. And then it comes back to us and shared with the board, and then the board determines whether or not they support that school calendar. And I think that's it for the changes for me.
Okay, I think we just have 432. Did you cover 350 as well, right?
Sorry.
Yes.
I did.
Just before
Okay.
we go on, Trustee Toon?
Just a question with the school calendar. Will the school calendar be developed on a yearly basis? I know previously there was a 2
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a draft. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
we're trying to stick with everything else except for the way that we gather the feedback to provide more voice to our students, staff, community members.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so just 432 left? Is that right?
And if you haven't heard from me already enough,
Oh, good. It's Mr.
Yeah.
Perry.
of course. Okay, this is the local authority pension plan. So we're required to have a procedure in place in accordance with the LAP requirements. This has changed a little bit with regards to some of the options that we had available. We had discussed these with the board in the previous year, and it's taken this amount of time to implement them from a whole scale perspective with employees. And so this one's fairly new. We reviewed other jurisdictions and what they had in place with regards to the LAP admin procedures. This one goes from, it used to be that all employees that were continuous employees needed to have 30 hours to be eligible for LAP. If they dropped down to 25 hours after that, they were still eligible, but if they went below that, they were not eligible. This procedure now makes it eligible for anybody above 14 hours. So even if they're continuous part-time, so they work 3 days a week, they still have the ability to access LAP benefits. Anything below 30 is optional. Employees are not forced to take upon them the LAP benefit, although it is a benefit to them. The jurisdiction contributes premiums to it as well. For the most part, the majority of other positions throughout the jurisdictions other than educational assistants were eligible. Educational assistants were not considered continuous, and so now they are, and so they qualify under this new procedure that we've put in place. Can you just go down a little bit, Nikki? There is a probationary period of 1 year, so an eligible employee has to work for the jurisdiction for 1 year. They have the ability to buy back time if they continue beyond that time period. Proven service with another jurisdiction will be accepted and considered when we employ them, begin to employ them. So if they've worked for another organization that had LAP, then we would continue the LAP right away when they are employed with us. And so the last point on here actually has the ability, if they've been on disability for more than 24 months, that we have the ability, and this is more of an HR side of things where you can, and there's no sign of coming back for working with the jurisdiction, that we can terminate the relationship and not be required to continue to contribute into LAP in that area. So that is, for the most part, the changes in that area. Any questions with regards to the LAP?
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
procedure?
Okay, seeing none. Thank you all very much. We'll move on to before that, Trustee Gimber regrets that she had to step away from the meeting at 3:30, but she did want to put forward a notice of motion around kilometers and the rate of pay for the November 14th board meeting for 2022. So we'll accept her notice of motion and we'll move on to G6, which is Mr. Feller's report. And I will turn that over to Trustee Yagos, who had a question around that report.
Yes, and when I was looking at some things you did, one was mentioned with the Blackfoot language and culture course planning. Could you explain something? Not explain, but what's going on with that, and where are you going to introduce it, and what grade levels is this at?
Yeah, sure. Working with Pursuits and Chad through that department, there's been a group of individuals who have come together to take a look at how we can support Blackfoot ways of knowing and being within the context of one language, two culture, and how we can do that in a more broad scope. And so coming together with Joelle Gamache, our elder Joe Eagletail Feathers, and Sherry Terpstra and some others, they have developed an opportunity for our grade 9s to do a day on the land to begin with, where Elder Joe Eagletail Feathers is going to be taking them on a sites tour. They're going to anchor that as part of that, just knowing where we are, to then other courses that are going to be offered throughout the year, where students can then be actively engaged in building their understanding through that.
Will this be open to all grade 9 students in the division, or just?
I believe everybody will have an opportunity to sign up at some point, and it's through Pursuits, and so there's just different days, and students will have an opportunity to sign up for those days. Did I miss anything on that, Chad? I mean, Mr. Kuzik.
Thank you. It sounds really interesting. I hope you keep us up to date on what's going on with that.
We're super excited to try and meet some of the needs of the students we have in ways that we've not been able to do so in the past.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We will go to item G7, which is the superintendent's report. And Trustee Stankiewicz, I'll turn it over to you.
I had a question about the Alberta education. Is this just for reviewing policy 102, the meeting with Alberta Education Field Services? If you can just explain.
Sure. So near the end of the bullets under functions and meetings, I have made a note of the meeting that senior admin had with Alberta Education. And so every school division has a field services liaison person, and their responsibility is to check in with senior administration in every school division to make sure that their education plan meets the requirements as outlined with Alberta Education. And then the same thing happens in the fall here with the annual education results report as well. So in the funding manual, there is required items and then optional items that you can present on. So basically, what we had an opportunity to do, meeting Chad, Richard, Lisa, and I, is we had a chance to meet with our new field services representative and go through our education plan, talk about our priorities, talk about the strategies that we have in place, and then answer any questions that they had. And so they were this is their first time as a field service liaison, and it was our first official meeting with them, and they, it was probably an hour and a half or 2 hours long. So we go into a lot of the work that we're doing and share our successes, and then also some of the challenges that we have. And they always offer, if there's any way that they could help, to let them know. And so we have that discussion. It was a really robust conversation, and the field services person mentioned at the end just how much she really appreciated the way that we've laid out our goals and strategies in our education plan. And looks forward to ongoing communication with us and getting to know our school division context much more as the relationship will continue to build over the next few years. Does that help answer it?
Thank you, Mr. Seguin. Does that help answer some of those questions? Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions around that? Okay, seeing none, we have come to the end of our discussion information items. We'll move on to item H, the key messages from today's meeting. If you have a recommendation for a key message, we've got Trustee Stangowitz.
I do. Yes, the ratification of the bus drivers.
Perfect. Ratification of, Willow Creek School Bus Drivers Association and LRSD. Okay. Trustee Hodges?
Our 2 presentations today also, please.
Thank you. Trustee Hodges?
Our enrollment numbers, now that they're official.
Okay. And our enrollment numbers. Perfect. Thank you very much. If there's nothing further, I'm just going to pause here for 1 sec. Okay, so can I get a motion to go in camera? Trustee Stangowitz at 3:51. You guys can leave your stuff here and we'll just go next door quickly. Thank you. For your participation in the meeting today. We had a motion to come out of camera at 3:58 by Trustee Yegas, and I am looking for a motion to adjourn at 3:59. Trustee Toon has tried to make that motion multiple times, so we'll go with Trustee Toon. Any opposed? All right, that is passed. Thank you very much.